Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, and thank you very much for coming along and allowing me to speak. It is an honor, it is a great opportunity, and I will try to say a few words from my heart, and probably I should start with a verse in the Quran. It says, "Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ard wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahar la ayatin li ulil albab." The meaning is that in the heaven, in the earth, or whatever in between two, and in the alternation of day and night, and all other things around, there are huge things to learn for the wise people. I believe that in this hour, the human beings are like different flowers. Each one of us are unique. Like in the garden, even in the roses, all roses are not same. They are different in color, different in qualities, and each one is unique to give a message. And yet, how can they beautifully stay together in peace? Definitely they have good communication. They have good understanding about one another. They understand about each other's right, and they respect one another quietly. We human, we talk. We make noises, and sometimes we talk too much and we make loud noises. But the flowers, the plants, they're quiet, yet they are better in communication. So we have a lot to learn from flowers. We have a lot to learn from plants and the natures. And the question is, if the flowers can live side by side peacefully, then why can't we human do the same thing? One person, he chose hate. He was pent up with misunderstanding and rage and anger, and with some ideas, some bad ideas, and without checking them, without communicating with Muslims, he took it generally, and he thought that he would do such a thing that he could probably eliminate the faith in Muslims, or maybe he would scare the Muslims, or he thought that he could bring the Muslim and non-Muslim division in between them, so he can bring the country into chaos, and then Muslim will be angry towards the other races because he was from other races, and his idea was that he could see we are fighting, and he will say, "I wanted this." So he wanted pleasure through the wrong ideas, but he was a failure. He could not do that, because human beings, they are not silly. They are most sophisticated, wise and honorable being. So the reaction was that they did not fall into the trap he was planning. It happened opposite. It was a test for the martyrs. It was a test whether they acted violently or they accepted their fate peacefully. I think they have passed the test, because they are our true inspiration. They were peaceful worshippers, and they died peacefully. They left this world with huge admiration. The world is crying for them. We are crying for them. So in that test, they passed. The victim families, it was a test for them. They could have become violent, they could have shown their rage, but in that test they have also won. They refused to be violent. They refused to do evil action in return to the evil action. Instead, they showed patience and peace. And in the remembrance service, I remember our Honorable Prime Minister, she said that it is amazing, when I was visiting hospitals and young people there were injured, and I expected them to be angry or to tell me off, but it was surprising. Everyone I visited, I saw smile in his or her face, and the word I received was salam, peace. So they have also passed the test. And New Zealand government, not like some other governments in the world who come up with divisive policies to divide people for politics. But New Zealand government, they came with a policy. They said, we are one, we will share our grief as one, and we will mourn for one another as one. It was a test for them. They passed the test. It was a test for the neighbors of the mosque community. They came with love, with flowers. They came with tears, but all were peaceful. They passed the test. The entire country, New Zealanders, they stood up for one another in unity, in love, not with violence, peacefully. Peacefully they showed that we can heal one another, or we can help one another in healing journey, but peacefully, not with violence. So it was a test for all of us. It was a test for the world too. And the entire world responded with peace, and everyone involved in it, affected in it, deserves to be congratulated. So I say the tragedy happens, as far as my little understanding, for two reasons. So the first reason is to be tested. So we were tested and we won in the test. We passed the test. The second reason for tragedy, why tragedy takes place, is to learn to be better. Is to learn to be better. And it goes not only the human man-made tragedy, it can be also natural disasters, earthquake in Christchurch. Why some people say, why so many bad things are happening in Christchurch? And I say, because God has a purpose. So we will be tested more, and we will learn more. We will be more matured. We will be more wiser. You see, when a piece of gold, the more we burn it, the more the impurities is gone out, and the more it becomes purer. Similarly, bad thing happens in our life, and we should think positively that it has happened for me to be more resilient, for me to be reminded that as human being what we need to do. So I think we have learnt a lot from the tragedy. After the tragedy, the immediate reaction was the human love was kicked in, and then without any instruction from anybody, without police chasing us to go to one another. Spontaneously, our heart said, respond to the tragedy. Come closer. Do the act of kindness for one another. And as human beings, break the barriers, break the misunderstanding, come together, communicate more, ask one another more, understand one another more, and be united. That way you will have peace and you will have security and better stability. When we learn things, that learning need to be passed on to the next generations, to the people in this world. Otherwise, it will be forgotten. In every age, some people, they take extra step. They do some extraordinary things to make sure that the message of learning is still being passed on to generation after generation. And in that, the painting is one of those things. The art is one of those things. Well, it is to capture the memory, to capture the learning. And Beeb and Janet, they have come up with a beautiful combination. One focused on the grief, the suffering of Muslim brothers and sisters. And on the other side, the others came like comforters, because flowers are comforters. People love flowers because flower gives us comfort. Cooling for the eyes, cooling for the heart, cooling for the mind. Comforters. So the other Kiwis, they came towards their Muslims and Muslim brothers and sisters as comforters, as flowers, with their love, with their support, with their kindness. So Bibi has captured that part, and Janet has captured the suffering part. So suffering and comfort. It's a beautiful, unique combination.
You've had a very specific message about peace and love. Can you talk to us about what the Muslim community's reaction has been to you?
I think overall reaction is good, and as I said that, you have seen by action, after the tragedy, Muslim families, victims, they choose the path of patience and peace. There are frustrations to some people, and that is obvious, because coping with life, and day-to-day challenges for some people could be a big challenge, and we must not underestimate that, especially some young people, some children, they are still finding hard to fit in the school and to be motivated for studying. Some widows, you can imagine when they have children are crying every day. It's like staying in the condition of grief. Everything in the house, the children, they are reminding that dad is missing, or in some cases mom is missing. So it's a constant reminder, and therefore it's a constant challenge. But having said that, these are struggles, but these are not violence, these are not anger, these are not hate.
Or
so
anger is not necessarily violence.
Yes. So these are reasonable frustrations, and we need to be supportive. We need to be beside them for long time, because this is our responsibility. But your question was overall, how did they react? The answer is, it was evident that all of them, they reacted peacefully. In a massive thing, and we are looking at not one or two families, we are looking of hundreds of families, some directly affected, some are indirectly affected. So we cannot put everyone into same box. So it is going to be huge work, but what we need to do, and what I think I need to do, is to keep encouraging myself. When I talk about peace, believe me, I tell myself at first. I tell myself that, Farid, no matter what happens, you have to be in peace. If you are not in peace, you cannot share peace with others, because it all comes from here, from our heart. If my heart is at peace, then I can talk to you peacefully, and you can feel it. You can feel it through my talk. You can feel that my heart is really at peace. Or you can feel it through my manner, from my gestures, and you can see it from my actions. If I am in peace, my house will be in peace. My family will be in peace. They will see that I am peaceful, and they will be inspired by that. My community will be inspired by that. So that's why the peace has to start from within me, within you, within each one of us.
Did you feel safe before the attacks? Did you experience racism in Christchurch?
Yes and no. Yes and no. So yes, because I use some terms. I don't use some terms. Probably you have noticed that. You can read my book, and you can see that I have purposely used some terms. So, for example, instead of calling the killer terrorist, I called killer. Or instead of saying Australian citizen, I called a human being. Or instead of saying white supremacist, I say misunderstood human being. Why I do this? Because I think one of the problems in a human society is that we use inflammatory words. We mean well, but when we use inflammatory words, then it makes some people happy, but it also makes some people angry. And one of those words, inflammatory words, is also racism. So what I say, wrong manner, and I say misunderstanding. So I use some common non-inflammatory words. A wrong manner, human being, they know if I abuse you, it is a wrong manner. And logically, no one can take it politically or into argument, blah, blah, blah. And a misunderstanding is, people act wrongly. Like, if we have teenagers, and we were teenagers, just think about us when we were teenagers. Sometimes, we snapped towards mom and dad. But then later on we realized, no, they meant well and they wanted best for us. But because we did not understand, instead of obeying their suggestions, we showed some, abrupt emotion. And maybe to some extent we hurt them mentally or emotionally. Similarly, some human, if we really from the deepest belief, if we believe that actually humans are from Adam and Eve, and we are really connected to one another, and we are human brothers and sisters, And if we look at one another with compassion, then we can see the bottom of it, that someone is angry towards me because he misunderstands me. For some reason, he got some wrong ideas about me. I'm a Muslim, and probably his understanding is I am bad for him. I'm an immigrant, and maybe something somehow has given him the understanding that immigrants are taking all the things away from him. I call these things are human misunderstanding. So from those human misunderstandings, if you ask me before 15th of March, Brother Farid, did you see some misbehavior? Yes, I did. But those misbehaviors were not to the extent that someone would come and kill me. That was over the top. So that is why, because we want to build, we don't want to break. Whatever we have lost so much, we don't want to lose more. I want to go and sit down with them and say, tell me face to face, do you hate me? Why? Maybe there is some misunderstanding, and let us talk about it, and we can find out a solution, a common ground. Summarize 15th of March remembrance in 3 sentences. 1, people we lost, they were peaceful worshippers. 2, after that, the victims and New Zealanders, they reacted with peace and love. And 3rd, we need to continue working to hold on that peaceful nature and our unity in love. If we can do that, we can face anything.